Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons and love are told. Please like, share with your friends and family and subscribe. I was adjusting the streamers above the living room doorway, humming to myself as I tried to balance the last balloon bouquet. Today was my birthday, and I had decided, for once, that I would host a quiet party at home with my daughter, Lila, my husband, Marcus and a few family members. I thought it would be a calm celebration, a gentle reprieve from the constant tug-of-war with my mother and sister. Yet, as I looked across the room, my heart skipped a beat when Lila, who had been unusually quiet all morning, sidled up to me with her little hand brushing against mine. She leaned in, her eyes wide and pale, and whispered, "Mom, don't eat the cake." I froze, holding a balloon in one hand and the curling ribbon in the other. "What do you mean, sweetie?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Lila's eyes darted toward the table where the cake sat, a perfect confection of whipped frosting and sprinkles. She shook her head, her tiny lips trembling. It's not safe. Grandma and Aunt Clara. They put something in it." I blinked, thinking she was joking. "Lila, this isn't funny. What are you talking about?" She tugged gently at my sleeve, insisting I look at her with the seriousness of someone far older than her 12 years. The room felt suddenly colder, the laughter from the few arriving guests fading into background noise. My mother, Eleanor, was fussing over setting plates, her smile sharp as she caught my gaze. My sister, Clara, was arranging the party favors, humming a tune, blissfully unaware or pretending to be of the storm about to break. I knelt to Lila's level, searching her face for the mischief I expected, but it wasn't there. She was pale, trembling, and her words carried the weight of truth. "I heard them talking," she whispered. "They want you and Dad and me to stay home. They put something so you can't go on the cruise. Clara said she can't afford it, and Mom said you shouldn't pay." The memory hit me like a punch to the gut. My sister had always been like that, expecting, demanding, taking. From childhood, Clara had been the one always prioritized, whether it was birthday presents, hand-me-downs, or attention from our parents. I remember being 10, standing in the corner of the store as Clara picked the toy I'd wanted, my mother smiling at her and ignoring my silent protest. That pattern never ended. It only evolved into financial handouts, favors, and excuses. I had always been the giver, expected to provide for her whims, and now, even as an adult, it was creeping back into my life like a shadow I couldn't shake. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself as the realization sank in. I loved my daughter fiercely, and if she was warning me, I had to listen. The cake, my birthday cake, was meant to be a simple celebration, yet it had become a weapon in a long-standing family battle I hadn't fully acknowledged until this moment. I gently grabbed Lila's hand. "Show me what you heard, baby. Tell me everything." She nodded, eyes wide with fear, and led me toward the kitchen, where she had overheard the conversation. Her voice was small but clear as she recounted how Eleanor and Clara had whispered about preventing us from leaving for the cruise. Clara's tone had been sharp, panicked even, as she insisted, "We can't afford it. She said she won't pay for us, and we can't let them leave." My mother had chuckled nervously, promising to take care of little details, to make sure our plans were thwarted. I felt the cold edge of betrayal slice through me. The people who were supposed to support, love, and celebrate with me had plotted against me. Not just against me, but against my family, against the joy we had planned. I walked back into the living room, trying to mask my shock with a tight smile. "Lila, go sit with Marcus," I instructed softly. "I'll handle this." Inside, my mind raced. The cake sat there innocently, a pristine symbol of joy that was now a potential threat. I needed proof, but I also needed to act carefully. My mother's history of manipulation and Clara's constant scheming meant that any misstep could backfire, putting my family at risk. I called Marcus into the kitchen, whispering what Lila had revealed. His face went pale too, and together we examined the cake without touching it. Something as simple as icing had become a battlefield. I remembered Clara's past whining whenever I refused her requests, the passive-aggressive digs at family gatherings, and the subtle manipulations that always left me feeling guilty. This wasn't a momentary lapse. It was a culmination of years of being the one who gave more than I received, the one who had to compromise, sacrifice, and placate. And now, My daughter had the courage to alert me to the next step in that relentless pattern. I realized then that the cruise we had planned wasn't just a vacation, it was a symbol of boundaries, of finally standing up to the cycle that had dictated our family dynamic for decades. My mother and sister's actions were a test of those boundaries, and it was clear they expected me to cave. But this time I wouldn't. The cake would be preserved, evidence documented, and our plans would go forward, but not without a reckoning. I took a photo of the cake, careful not to alert anyone, and tucked it aside as evidence. Lila hugged me, her trust in me anchoring my resolve. "We won't let them ruin it," I whispered back, pressing a kiss to her hair. I felt a surge of determination. The family that had always relied on my compliance was about to see that I had finally drawn a line. That line started with the birthday cake and extended to every manipulation, every expectation, and every selfish demand. As the party began in earnest, I maintained a calm facade, greeting friends and family, smiling and chatting. But inside, I was plotting the steps that would ensure justice, safety, and dignity for my immediate family. Lila remained by my side, a silent partner in awareness, her early warning echoing in my mind. Every laugh, every cheer, every clinking of glasses became a background to the anticipation of confrontation. I knew that in time, the truth would surface, and those who sought to undermine me would face consequences. But for now, the birthday celebration continued, delicate and tense, a momentary pause before the storm of revelations to come. I couldn't help but reflect on my history with Eleanor and Clara as I watched the candles flicker. My life has been one of constant accommodation, of giving more than I ever received, and often feeling invisible in the shadow of my sister's demands. Lila's courage reminded me that it was time to prioritize my own family, to protect our joy and our well-being. Today, the cake was a test, and I had passed the first measure by listening, by believing, and by refusing to be complicit in their scheme. The party carried on around us, laughter and music masking the tension, but the air seemed charged with anticipation. I knew the confrontation was inevitable. The cake was not just a dessert, it was a symbol of control, greed, and the lengths some people would go to manipulate others. But I was ready. My family's trust in me, Lila's brave warning, and Marcus's unwavering support fortified me. I could feel the power shifting subtly, a quiet promise that this birthday would not be marred, that boundaries would be drawn, and that the cycle of exploitation and expectation was nearing its end. By the time the first guests departed, I had a plan. I would document everything, secure the cake, and confront Eleanor and Clara with proof of their intent. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just about a vacation or a birthday cake. It was about reclaiming my autonomy, ensuring my daughter felt safe, and finally showing my family that their schemes would no longer dictate my life. Lila, sensing the shift in my resolve, smiled faintly, her earlier fear transforming into quiet confidence. Together, we had taken the first step toward a reckoning that would forever alter the balance of our family dynamics. The next morning, I couldn't shake the image of that cake from my mind. Lila's warning replayed in my head like a persistent alarm, each word sharpening my resolve. I called Marcus into the kitchen, and we examined the cake again, careful not to touch it directly. Something about the frosting looked slightly off, though nothing was immediately obvious. I decided it was time to escalate matters. I carefully packaged the cake, taking photos and video documentation, and called the local authorities, explaining the situation without revealing too much, just enough to ensure the cake would be tested for any foreign substances. The calmness in the dispatcher's voice contrasted sharply with the storm of emotions brewing inside me. While waiting for the police and chemical testing, I confronted Eleanor and Clara. I approached them casually at first, maintaining a veneer of normalcy. "So about the cake," I began, letting my gaze linger meaningfully on them. Eleanor's face tightened and Clara's smile faltered. They both tried to brush it off, insisting it was a misunderstanding or that I was overthinking, but the weight in their eyes betrayed them. I pressed further, recounting what Lila had overheard and how their conversation had unfolded. "I know what you planned. I want the truth," I said firmly. Clara's cheeks flushed, and Eleanor's lips pressed into a thin line. I could feel the years of manipulation and expectation boiling beneath the surface. Clara finally muttered, almost inaudibly. It was just, I didn't want you to pay for us. We can't afford it. Eleanor's eyes darted nervously between us, her voice shaky as she confessed. I just wanted to make sure you stayed home. It was supposed to be harmless, temporary, just to give you a stomach ache, nothing serious. The air between us grew thick with tension. The realization that the people who should have supported and celebrated me had actively plotted against my family was staggering. The police arrived shortly after, taking statements and securing the cake for chemical analysis. I watched as the officers handled everything professionally, feeling a mixture of relief and rage. Here was tangible proof of what had been brewing under the surface for years. Clara's whining about finances, Eleanor's manipulations, the subtle undermining, they all culminated in this one act of sabotage. The cake was no longer just a dessert. It was evidence, a symbol of the betrayal I had endured. As the investigation unfolded, I uploaded a brief post on social media, not revealing specifics, but signaling that justice and accountability were underway. The community reaction was immediate, supportive, and validating. I felt the quiet satisfaction of reclaiming control, of showing that manipulation and deceit would not go unchallenged. Friends messaged me, expressing shock, offering encouragement, and sharing their own stories of family betrayal. The network of support reinforced my resolve. I was not alone, and my actions were justified. In the days that followed, the chemical analysis report confirmed Lila's warning. There had indeed been a laxative added to the cake. The confirmation sent shockwaves through my family circle. Eleanor and Clara were confronted formally by the authorities, their attempts at denial unraveling quickly. The magnitude of their misdeed became clear. This was not just a harmless prank but reckless endangerment. The authorities offered them a choice between a fine or community service. Eleanor, in an attempt to salvage some dignity, volunteered at a church food pantry, while Clara reluctantly complied with community service hours. The public exposure of their actions was humiliating for them, but necessary for our family's protection and moral clarity. Through it all, Marcus stood firmly by my side, providing a steady anchor amidst the storm of emotions. Lila's courage and vigilance had prevented what could have been a serious incident, and I felt a renewed sense of pride in her intuition and bravery. The incident forced a reckoning not just with Eleanor and Clara but within myself, confronting years of passive compliance and setting boundaries that could no longer be ignored. I reflected on the countless times I had been the giver in the family, the one who sacrificed comfort and finances to accommodate Clara's whims, and I realized that this was the turning point. Finally, the day of the cruise arrived. The bags were packed, the tickets secured, and for the first time in years, I felt the thrill of autonomy. Eleanor and Clara were excluded. Their scheming had ensured it. I felt a complex mix of sorrow and satisfaction. Sorrow for the family that might never be, and satisfaction for asserting the boundaries that had long been denied. Lila's excitement was infectious, and Marcus's calm support reminded me that a family could be built on trust, not obligation or manipulation. On the cruise, I found moments of reflection, watching the sun dip into the horizon, waves lapping against the ship's hull. I thought about the journey we had just endured, not the literal cruise, but the emotional one. Years of imbalance, manipulation, and exploitation had culminated in this liberation. I realized that the betrayal of Eleanor and Clara, painful as it was, offered clarity. It allowed me to redefine family, to prioritize those who truly mattered, and to recognize that love and trust are not obligations, they are earned and nurtured. As we shared meals and laughter on the ship, Lila confided in me how proud she was to have spoken up, how she felt strong for warning me. It was a poignant reminder of the lessons we teach our children not just through words, but through action. I had taught her the importance of vigilance, of courage, and of refusing to accept mistreatment. The ripple effect of standing up against wrongdoing became evident in her newfound confidence and joy. The cruise was everything I had imagined and more. Lila's laughter echoed across the deck as she chased seagulls, Marcus and I holding hands and savoring moments of uninterrupted joy. For the first time in years, I felt untethered from the constant weight of family expectation and manipulation. The shadow of Eleanor and Clara, though present in memory, did not touch this space. Here, we were just a family, our little unit of trust and love, and the world outside could no longer dictate our happiness. Every wave that lapped against the ship felt like a cleansing force, washing away years of imposed guilt and frustration. Even amidst the beauty of the ocean and the luxury of our cabin, my mind often drifted to the aftermath of the confrontation. Posting the chemical analysis report on social media had been a calculated move, but watching the ripple effects, messages of support, and comments from friends who had experienced similar betrayals was profoundly validating. People reached out to share their stories, express outrage on my behalf, and offer encouragement for my decision to cut ties financially and emotionally with Clara. It reminded me that while blood can be binding, loyalty and respect must be earned, not demanded. I spent quiet evenings with Marcus on the balcony, watching Lila asleep inside, reflecting on what had happened. The thought of Eleanor and Clara, forced to face consequences for their actions, brought a bittersweet sense of satisfaction. Community service, public exposure, and the sting of humiliation were far more impactful than any argument I could have mustered at home. They had attempted to manipulate and control, but justice, however measured, had found them. I understood that real revenge doesn't always involve dramatic displays. Sometimes, it is simply letting the truth unfold while maintaining your own integrity and enjoying the life that was denied to you. Lila, surprisingly perceptive for her age, had begun sharing the story with cousins and friends' parents, recounting the warning she had given and the betrayal she had uncovered. Her voice, proud and unapologetic, carried the message that wrongdoing has consequences and that courage even from a child matters. I watched her assert herself and felt a wave of pride. She had absorbed lessons that would guide her for a lifetime. She had learned to trust her instincts, to speak up, and to understand that family love does not mean tolerating manipulation. As the cruise progressed, I allowed myself moments of indulgence, long swims, sun-drenched naps, and quiet dinners with Marcus. Yet, beneath the enjoyment, I reflected deeply on the nature of family dynamics and how often self-interest masquerades as love. Eleanor had always prioritized Clara, both financially and emotionally, and I had allowed the pattern to persist for decades. By finally standing my ground, documenting evidence, and insisting on accountability, I had broken that cycle. I realized that boundaries are not just protective walls, they are declarations of self-respect, teaching others how to treat you and modeling healthy relationships for the next generation. Returning home from the cruise brought a mixture of relief and determination. Eleanor and Clara had moved closer to each other, perhaps finding solace in shared accountability, but my connection with them had irrevocably changed. When they appeared later with a tuna casserole as a supposed offering of reconciliation, I felt nothing but the weight of years of disappointment and betrayal. I threw the casserole away, not out of malice, but as a symbolic gesture that some relationships, once violated, cannot be repaired through token gestures. My family, Marcus and Lila, remained intact, stronger than ever, a unit built on trust, respect, and mutual care. In the quiet moments following the storm, I reflected on my journey and what it taught me. The cake incident was more than a birthday disruption. It was the culmination of a lifetime of deferred boundaries, unspoken resentments, and unbalanced expectations. By confronting the wrongdoing, insisting on accountability, and protecting my family, I reclaimed not only a vacation but also my autonomy, dignity, and the ability to define my family relationships on my own terms. The experience reinforced that courage, clarity, and decisive action are essential when dealing with those who repeatedly cross boundaries. Every day since, I have carried the lessons of that week in my heart. I have strengthened my resolve to prioritize my family's well-being, to trust my instincts, and to never allow manipulation or entitlement to dictate our lives. Lila's courage, Marcus's steadfastness, and my own determination have created a foundation that no betrayal can shake. Life has a way of testing our boundaries and patience, but standing firm and seeking justice can transform even painful experiences into profound growth and empowerment. The story concludes with a recognition of the hard truths. Some family dynamics cannot be fixed, and the pursuit of fairness and protection of loved ones sometimes requires difficult decisions. I have chosen peace, integrity, and the nurturing of healthy relationships over futile attempts to placate those who consistently undermine my well-being. Eleanor and Clara's actions will remain a lesson, A cautionary tale for anyone tempted to exploit trust. And as I look at my daughter, I see the reflection of resilience, courage, and wisdom qualities that will guide both of us through every challenge that lies ahead.
Moral lesson.
This experience taught me the invaluable lesson that love does not mean sacrificing your well-being for others' selfish desires. True fam. Not manipulation or entitlement. It reminded me that courage comes in many forms, from a child's instinctive warning to an adult's decisive action, and that listening to intuition can prevent harm before it occurs. Boundaries are not walls meant to isolate but shields that protect our mental, emotional, and physical safety, and setting them is an act of self-respect. Accountability is essential. Those who attempt to harm or manipulate must face consequences, and justice does not always need to be vengeful. It can be measured and fair, yet powerful. By reclaiming control of my life and prioritizing the people who truly matter to my daughter and husband, I found freedom, peace, and empowerment. This story encourages everyone to stand firm against unfair treatment, honor their instincts, and protect their loved ones, showing that resilience and integrity are more enduring than any betrayal, and that true joy comes from healthy, respectful relationships.